The next item on the agenda would be the Toma High School PAC report, and for those viewing at home, that's the positive alternative choices for kids.
You just stole their thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need some thunder.
No. I'm kidding. I'm gonna give a brief introduction and try not to steal their thunder. Just a quick overview. This is, I think, something that's been, I would say, in the works for a long time. The two folks you're about to hear from have had these ideas spinning around in their heads and really trying to accomplish something that was sort of the square peg in the round hole until this last year we said, you know what, let's forget about the square peg in the round hole and build the octagon that you need to make this happen. And so what we're looking at is a way to serve students that weren't fitting into the traditional structure at the high school, didn't necessarily meet the criteria for Robert Cooper, but students who needed some real focus on their behavior first, to get behaviors under control so that then we could focus on getting them caught back up with academics. So it's to get back on track, to get back in class, and to move on towards graduation. I have more that I wrote here, but I think I'm going to stop so I don't steal all of your thunder.
I was just saying. You were saying everything we're saying. So as was stated,
I didn't introduce them. This is
sorry.
Sarah Walters and Gretchen Meacham.
Welcome.
And before we start, I guess, I would just like it to be known that I do not believe in any way that the seniors beat us. The game was not complete. So just like that to be
You're on record.
on the record, yes.
You want that in the minutes officially?
Yes, please.
She is the varsity volleyball coach, so she has something to lose.
Okay. Yeah.
She was actually playing.
Yes.
I was cheering.
That's a good thing.
So you've received, I think, the printout of it, and so not to go through it for word of what you have received, but just to give you a briefing, that the purpose of our PAC program is to offer an educational setting for those students who didn't quite make it in the regular ed setting because of behavior. So they've made it into our program one way or another, and our job on a daily basis is to keep our behaviors under control, and that's first and foremost, and then independently and in small group setting working on their credits to graduate. So three main components, I guess, that our program is composed of, and first obviously is behavior, and then academic and then vocational skills. So I don't know, do you have any questions on what you read or anything that we've...
I just want to add a couple of details.
Okay.
Just real quick, I'm sorry. Again, I'm not stealing your thunder.
No.
You did well. We're serving a very small population. So when we say students who have had significant behavior issues, we're talking in the area of 10 to 15 students out of 1,000 at the high school. That's the 10 to 15 students that would be the students that previously all of our classroom teachers would be spending the most of their time with. Our administrative team would be spending the most of their time with. And so by servicing those students in a better way, we're looking for better outcomes, not only for those students, but for the entire student body, because we're creating a focus for those students on behaviors first, which is what we need to deal with first and foremost, and for the rest of the student body on academics first, which is where it ought to be. So.
I want to just add some of the changes to the facility.
Oh yeah.
Sure, and we have our room comprised of, last year when we kind of started this, it was two separate rooms, and Gretchen and I from hour to hour would try to be on the same page of switching kids from room to room, and so we'd be running it back and forth, and so that didn't work all the best. So we have a door that is now in between our two rooms, and so the majority of our day is in one room, and then small group setting, depending on which hour is, whoever is teaching the small group setting utilizes the other classroom to do a science class, a math class, and then in the other classroom then we are working on independent studies, that they're working on the credits then different ways that they need to graduate as well.
And then there's a brand new entrance for our kids also. They come into the back of this school, and it really limits them to the whole building. A part of what they struggle with is interacting with all the other students, some of the adults, so it limits them to only responding to 2, 3, maybe 4 adults a day, and it's shown a lot of success, and the behaviors have really dropped.
So far, yeah, there was an initial period where they were going, whoa, wait a minute here, this is not what I signed up for. But they've come through that, and it's been really interesting and fun to watch their success and feel the family setting that we have in our room of knowing that what they need to do to be appropriate and to be successful during the day, because they know that they can't make it out there. They've tried it and it didn't work. So they're in here, and it's been pretty neat to watch.
And so one of the things, whenever you have students that are not making it on a behavior front, they're constantly having these, impulse control is key. And there's a real low level of impulse control, especially when you get to what we call unstructured playtime. At the high school level, unstructured playtime is every passing period, it's the lunchtime, it's before school, and it's after school. So what Sarah and Gretchen, sorry about that, have done is created an environment that really limits for many of the kids, zero unstructured time. But they have ways that as their behavior improves, they can earn back some of that unstructured time. Again, as long as they continue to have appropriate behavior even during those unstructured times. So it's a constantly fluxing system that puts behaviors first and foremost, and then through that allows these two teachers to work with all of those students to get caught back up academically as well.
And then the other thing that goes into play with that is that when they go from classroom to classroom to classroom, they know that first hour I have this teacher and I have this rules, and second hour I have this teacher and this rules, and all day long I switch from different teachers and different rules. And they get our two faces just about all day, so they know that the rules are always going to be the same. They never have to worry about them changing. That's the constant. So that's also a bonus for them, because a lot of them do not deal well with change, and that's obviously that impulse.
One quick stat for you, we ran our numbers as of Friday, discipline referrals total. This is major and minors. As of this point in the year versus last year at this point, and we had 69 or so last year. This year, I think it was 41 or 42. So it's a significant reduction, and that's throughout the school. And again, what we're trying to do is focus in very closely on the students that require the most attention and provide the right service model. And we believe by doing that, we're going to affect the entire student body.
Question? As you're standing there, Dr. Skowronek, I was wondering how this meshes with the programs here at Robert Cooper.
I'm glad you brought that up. One of the thing is that these, I kind of led you into that question.
Yes.
We're only targeting, like we said, about, let's say, a dozen students. Every one of these students are identified with a special education impairment and have an IEP. And so these students, we have worked through many different trials or programs or ideas to try to help them improve their behaviors, or for whatever reason, what was working when they were younger isn't working now when they are in their adolescence or young adulthood. So to compare the different programming here, majority of students here are regular education identified. They're not identified and they don't have an IEP. They're at risk to not graduating, aka they don't have enough credits to make it for whatever reason. Again, at the high school, we noticed that there was a segment of our population, again, very small, but again, when we look at what we're being held to, every child a graduate, we're noticing these young adults, these students with special needs that have behavior issues with peers, with authorities, with adults, you go on, they're struggling to make it because they don't want to be there. All their energy and all of our energy was being devoted to working on those very simple behavior skills. This way, we have a reduction in behavior skills, but we also have means to help them earn their credits with validity, with fidelity, and graduate. So there's the difference. All we're doing really is adding another tool to our tool belt. That's all this really is, amongst many different things we have, which we need because every child is so unique. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you say that prior to this, were those students integrated into the general classrooms?
Prior to this, most were integrated in the general classroom. Some weren't, and some of these things kind of evolve. You see what works, and you go and you check out other programs. I mean, we went and they visited other schools. We saw other things that are working. This is kind of, you'll notice we've been here many times at different levels with different programs, because what we're doing is we're going out and seeing what's working. I'm not making the wheel. We're stealing someone else's wheel. If that can work there, that can work here. Let's tweak it, make it the TOMA way, and make it happen. Because all we're trying to do, again, is reduce behaviors, reduce our energies and resources, and increase our graduation rate.
And the big part to answer your question there was, last year, Sarah had a room and Gretchen had a room, and many students that were in this population would see them at different points in the day, but when they weren't there, they were going through the same 4-minute passing periods, going out to other classes, and experiencing all of that unstructured time and having to deal with those impulses. And so the big change is, and again, we said, you know what, for these students, it doesn't work to operate on our 9-period day and worrying about our bells. So they don't. They're operating on a different daily schedule. They don't care about the bells as they ring throughout the day. And they're really focused on meeting those kids' needs from hour to hour, half hour, 15
They
minutes.
receive points throughout the day, so really the unstructured time that they get is if they earn enough points and they keep those points, then they get to go out to a regular ed class if they're doing okay in that class, and they can earn their way out for a regular lunch period. Otherwise, they eat lunch with us as well, so we all eat together.
And to reiterate though, I do want to make this point absolutely clear to you and to the viewers at home. The goal for each and every one of these students is to have their behaviors under control, impulse control done, to be caught back up academically, and to migrate back out with everybody else, and to ultimately graduate with their peers. So this is not a permanent placement for students. It's a place to focus on what we need to focus on right now for as long as we need to focus on that, to continue on and transition back out.
Other questions?
I just was curious about the process. I mean, if a student reaches a point, then you approach the student as administration and recommend this, and then they can decide to do it or not do it. How does that usually play out?
We follow the IEP process, the special education placement process, but you nailed it right on the head. Is we've worked with students, some students do fine with a certain level of intervention. Why would you do more? Why would you do less? If you found that formula for success, that's what you run with, because every child's different. But we've also noticed that some children just demand more and more and more resources, and we're reaching a point where we've tried many different things, different kind of interventions. And so we're reaching a point where their behavior is not only a disruption for themselves but everybody else. Now we have to, through the IEP process, we work through our choices of what we can do, and this is one of the choices. Just like we mentioned before, this is kind of on that continuum of services that we're offering. And so again, it's kind of like a roadmap, but I think what you need to do is you have to exhaust every other remedy you can think of before you reach this restrictive placement. If this restrictive placement doesn't work, we still have decisions, which we have used once in a while, but that's a very restrictive placement because we've taken them out of their home school, which is the high school, and placed them into a different school. Again, a range of service. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I think in the work that they're doing, knocking down some walls, and in the work that the board authorized, knocking down 2 walls to build an entrance and a passageway between the rooms too.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.